mother's love faced the impossible. Pharaoh had ordered death for every Hebrew son, but God had written a different story. Jochebed hid her baby as long as she could, every breath a prayer, every cry a risk. And when hiding was no longer possible, she chose faith over fear. She placed her son in the river, not to abandon him, but to release him into God's hands. The Nile carried more than a child that day. It carried a promise, a deliverer, and a future no empire could stop. The river was dangerous. Crocodiles beneath the surface, soldiers along the banks, death waiting in every shadow. But what Egypt could not see, heaven could. As the basket drifted, unseen hands watched over the child. Angels stood guard where waters could not claim him. The Nile did not swallow God's promise. It carried him exactly where he needed to be. Because when God has a destiny to fulfill, even the river must obey. She was born into power, raised in comfort, sheltered by privilege. The Nile was familiar to her. Its waters a place of routine, of cleansing, of quiet escape from palace walls. And something eternal stirred within her. The heart God placed in a woman, the instinct to protect, to nurture, to choose mercy over decree. In a world that commanded death, she chose life. She knew whose child he was the moment she saw him. A Hebrew boy, marked for death by her father's command. But she did not bring him to Pharaoh as a threat. She brought him as a son, wrapped in innocence, named in mercy, presented not as rebellion but as compassion. Pharaoh, ruler of nations, was disarmed by the quiet authority of his daughter. So the child was raised in the palace, educated, protected, and trained beside the prince, never knowing that the very house meant to destroy him was preparing him to confront it.
When Pharaoh accepted the child as his daughter's own, Moses crossed a threshold no one could have imagined. He was raised in the palace, clothed in royalty, educated in wisdom, and protected by power. Side by side with Pharaoh's son, the two boys grew as brothers. They trained together, fought battles together, feasted at the same tables, and rested in the same halls. They bathed in the same waters and walked the same marble floors, equal in privilege, equal in strength. To the world, Moses was Egyptian royalty, but beneath the gold and stone, God was quietly preparing a deliverer, a man who would one day have to choose between the palace and the people.
Because Moses had a purpose, God placed him exactly where his heart could be awakened. From the palace walls, he saw two worlds. He saw the humility of the slavesmen and women, bent beneath burdens they did not deserve. And he saw the guards armed with authority, empowered by Pharaoh, striking without mercy. Something stirred in Moses' spirit. The injustice pierced him, and the comfort of the palace could no longer quiet his soul. One day, when he saw a Hebrew being beaten, anger rose within him, not born of pride, but of righteousness. He struck the oppressor down, believing justice had been served. But the act was seen. Whispers spread. Fear followed. The palace that raised him now turned against him. Pharaoh sought his life, and Moses, once clothed in gold, fled with nothing but the weight of his choice. He ran from power into the wilderness, not knowing that the desert was not punishment, but preparation. The desert stripped Moses of everything the palace had given him: no servants, no titles, no protection. Only heat by day, cold by night, and the echo of his own thoughts. He carried regret. He carried confusion. He wondered if he had acted too soon or misunderstood his purpose entirely. Once surrounded by gold, Moses now walked alone. The man raised as a prince became a stranger, a fugitive with no name, no future, and no certainty that God was still with him. Then, in the land of Midian, God intervened quietly. At a well, Moses saw injustice again, this time against shepherd girls driven away by stronger men, and once more his heart rose to defend the vulnerable. He helped them. He protected them, not as a prince, but as a servant. Their father took Moses in. He was given food, shelter, work hand, eventually a family. Moses became a shepherd, day after day, tending sheep, learning patience, learning silence, learning humility. The man once trained to command now learned to follow. Years passed. The fire inside him did not die, but it was refined, and in that quiet obedience, when Moses no longer sought greatness, God began to speak. Moses remained in the desert, not forgotten, but hidden, like so many of us, waiting, wondering, learning how to listen. The desert is not the end. It is where hearts are softened, where pride is quieted, where God prepares us for what is coming. If you are in a desert season right now, uncertain, tired, unseen, you are not alone. This is often where God speaks the clearest, if we are willing to open our hearts and our minds. But before Moses ever became a deliverer, before miracles, before freedom, there was a choice, a woman, a moment, a life spared. Pharaoh's daughter did not have to save that child. She did not have to take responsibility. She had everything. Yet she chose life. And from that one choice came deliverance for a nation. Never underestimate what God can do through one life, one brave decision, one yes. This is a pro-life story, and this is only the beginning. Stay with me for part 2.